Hi there, I am teacher Moises, and for this video I will talk about Indian Pidgin English. We will check different features about this variation of English, such as origin, the impact of the arrival of English that had in that country, implications and connotations for the community, and well, among other aspects. Okay, so let's start. First of all, what is Indian Pidgin English? Well, Indian Pidgin English, that is also often referred to as Butler English or Broken English, it is an interesting variety of English that has developed informally in India due to prolonged contact between English and Indian languages. While it is not a fully developed Creole, it has significant pidgin-like features and serves as a simplified means of communication, particularly in informal and service-oriented settings. Now let's talk about the origins and spread. Now this variation of English has different names, as I mentioned before. These names are Butler English, Bazaar English, Broken English, and Indian Pidgin English, of course. Regarding the location, it is primarily spoken in India, especially in markets, domestic services, and rural-urban interactions. It is difficult to estimate, but it is widely spoken by millions in informal settings. As for its roots, it was developed during British colonial rule between the 18th and 20th centuries, when English became a dominant administrative and trade language. It emerged as a simplified form of communication between English speakers, such as colonial rulers or merchants, and local workers, such as domestic servants, traders, and laborers. Now let's see the classifications according to Kekru's and Mer's models. For Kekru's model, Indian Pidgin English falls under the outer circle, since India was historically influenced by English during the British rule, and English remains a second language with widespread institutional use. As for Mer's model, it would fit into the peripheral non-standard varieties category. This is because the peripheral non-standard varieties include pidgins and creoles that evolved due to colonial influence and serve as non-standard content languages. Indian Pidgin English is a non-standard spoken variety that emerged due to British colonial rule and the need for communication between English speakers and local Indian populations. Now let's see some remarkable features of this variation of English. First of all, let's start with the lexical features, words and vocabulary. Indian Pidgin English incorporate loanwords from Indian languages and direct translations. For example, what is your good name instead of what is your name? That in this case is a direct translation from Hindi. Or borrow words like Baba instead of father, chalo instead of let's go, dikai instead of okay, and jaldi instead of hurry up. For morphological features, that in this case is a word formation, and they tend to use a word repetition for emphasis. That in this case is quite common in Indian languages, such as small problem instead of a minor problem, or adding unnecessary suffixes to words. For example, eat in key place instead of where is a place to eat. That in this case is influenced from Hindi and Tamil suffixes. Some syntactical features have to do with omission of articles. For example, he's good man instead of he's a good man, or she's teacher instead of she's a teacher. Even direct translations from Indian languages. For example, your house is where instead of what is your house, and that in this case follows an Hindi sentence structure. Or unusual questions formations. For example, you have pen now instead of do you have pen. Overuse of continuous tenses. For example, I am understanding now instead of I understand now. Finally, let's see some phonological features that in this case have to do with pronunciation. Some characteristics are omission or simplification of consonant clusters. For example, school instead of school, or film instead of film. Also, retroflex pronunciation of T and D that are quite common in Indian languages. For example, T sounds like a hard T, as in table, or D sounds like D as in door. And finally, influence of mother tongue accents on English pronunciation. For example, Tamil influence pronunciation. Berry sounds like wary, or vegetable sounds like vegetable. In the influence pronunciation, three sounds like tree, and think sounds like think. Implications and connotations for the community. First of all, social impact. In this case, since India has over 22 official languages and thousands of dialects, Indian Pidgin English acts as a lingua franca for people from different linguistic backgrounds. It is especially common among workers, traders, drivers, and domestic helpers who may not have a formal education in English but need it to communicate with customers, employers, or tourists. There are also issues regarding social status. People who speak pidginized English are often looked down upon as uneducated or rural. Those who speak standard Indian English tend to have better job opportunities and social status. Regarding the political impact, Indian Pidgin English emerged during British colonial rule as a necessity for trade, administration, and domestic service. Even after India gained independence in 1947, English remained a dominant language, but only elites had access to proper English education. This created a class divide, where fluent English speakers had better political and economic opportunities. The Indian government recognizes English as an associate official language along with Hindi. However, Pidginized English is not officially recognized or encouraged in schools. Efforts are being made to promote regional languages and reduce dependency on English, but English still dominates business, law, and higher education. Now, for the cultural impact, Bollywood films often use Indian Pidgin English in comedic roles to represent villagers, working class characters, or foreigners speaking broken English. The stereotypical Indian accent in Hollywood movies and Western media often exaggerates features of Indian Pidgin English. Many Indian authors incorporate elements of Indian Pidgin English in dialogues to make their characters sound more realistic. Advertisements and social media content sometimes use pidginized English for humor and relatability. Finally, regarding the economic impact, fluency in standard English is a key requirement for many high paying jobs in corporate India, IT, and multinational companies. People who speak only pidginized English often remain in low income jobs like construction, domestic work, or informal trade. Due to the demand for better English skills, many coaching centers and online platforms offer spoken English courses targeting people who speak Indian Pidgin English but want to improve for job opportunities. As a conclusion, I can say that Indian Pidgin English plays a crucial role in informal communication, but is often stigmatized in formal settings. While it reflects India's multilingual identity, the preference for standard English creates social and economic barriers. However, its presence in culture and everyday life shows that it remains an important linguistic reality in India today. So that's it for my presentation. Here are my references, and well, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.